Hello and welcome. My name's Tate and I decided to I haven't done a review in ages, so I decided to do another review. Went to see an exhibition this morning, the second time I've been actually, called All Too Human at Tate, Britain. If you can see that, very good exhibition. I just want to say a few words about it really. Take you through maybe room by room, tell you what you can find, what's good, what's bad, and talk about some of the paintings briefly. But to start with, I just want to read a little bit at the end of the introduction in this little booklet. Quite like these little booklets, they do. They're quite good. Could have a few more pictures in, but no, not bad. Anyway, the third and final paragraph in the introduction there says, many of the artists in the exhibition have spoken of painting as an activity that cannot be properly expressed in words. Exactly. Existing beyond the limits of verbal language, embracing the visual and tactile qualities of paint, these artists set out to explore what it is that makes us human. That is a sentiment I agree with very much. Anyway, let's get on with the review. There are 11 rooms. 11 rooms. It's quite a big exhibition. There are some really good paintings in this exhibition, and there is some not so good paintings and some artists which I cannot stand for reasons we will get to. So the first room starts off much earlier stuff. I've written some notes here. There's Stanley Spencer, a couple of Stanley Spencer paintings which are quite nice, of Patricia Priest, and one of them's her clothes. The other one is these are like full torso paintings, you could say. The other one, yeah, she's naked, top half naked, and they're pretty good. Kind of remind me of Lucian Freud, early Lucian Freud in some ways. But they're not the most interesting paintings in the world. The way the paint is used, which is always my thing, isn't the most amazing. But they're accurately done. They're nicely done. I think they're pretty good. Who else have they got in that room? Sickert, Walter Sickert. Now these paintings are very dark, very dingy, very much what you would think of as Victorian London. It's almost as if the smoke from all the chimneys and factories and coal burning that went on at that time is pervading the paint itself. Pretty dark and dingy stuff, and they're all right. If you like that kind of stuff, they're all right, but they seem to me to be very much of their time. They're kind of realistic, slightly, I suppose you'd say slightly impressionistic, but yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Not the best things in the world, but pretty good. They've also got some Haim Soutine and David Bomberg. Now these are both artists who I absolutely love. I think they're brilliant because they express themselves with the paint. Paint is the thing. Haim Soutine painters have got a landscape, they've got a portrait, and another painting. I think it's of a butcher standing outside the shop with the size of meat hanging from the shop. But the portrait's great, the landscape's great. They've got power, they've got energy. The paint is doing its job to express things, and that's what I want. That's what a painting is. And the Bomberg, Bomberg, one of the reasons why I like Bomberg, because he changed so much. He did so many different things, which is something that I end up doing. I end up doing different things. You do things in a certain way for a bit, and you find you become a bit stale because you said things, in that way as much as you can. And then you want to move on to something else, because otherwise you just end up painting the same painting again and again and again. And that's not what you want to do as an artist, because then you just, you die inside. That's not what you want. What you want is to change. You want to bring new life to things. You want to have new ways to express the new way that you're seeing things. But these David Bomberg is very good. There's a self-portrait, very well-known self-portrait from 1931. And some of his landscapes are really good. There's a painting called Toledo from Alcazar, and that's a great painting. It's so bitty. It's just a wonderful thing to look at. It just really engages the eyes. And again, paint is the thing. The paint does the expression. It's not the image, it's not the composition, it's the paint. And that's what you want. Okay, now we're going to move on to room 2. Okay, so in room 2, we have a couple of different things. I should say I'm not going to mention every single painter that's in this exhibition, because some of them aren't really worth mentioning, in my opinion. And the paintings aren't that great, and I don't know much about them, and I don't really have anything to say about them. You'll have to go to the exhibition and look at them for yourselves. Anyway, in room 2, there are some early Francis Bacons. There's a Giacometti sculpture. I'm not quite sure why. but it's a nice enough, it's very much Giacometti, you know, long, tall, thin figure. I think it's female nude, and that's nice enough. But there's also plenty of Francis Bacon, some early Francis Bacons in this room. Now, the thing is, with early Francis Bacon, I've written down here some words that really, I think, sum up some of his early stuff. Some of them a bit unfocused, not so good, a bit haphazard, a bit messy. You know, they don't always hit the spots. But you know, you got to forgive him. The man's getting where he's going to get to when he gets to the 60s and 70s, which we'll come to later in the exhibition. Then he hit his stride, and he was fantastic. But these early ones, I don't think are so good. Some of the good. The Baboon is really good. The William Blake Life Mask. It's a painting that I've seen many times, and I kind of like it because it's quite small and it's just focused just on the you know, the face. This life mask, I believe he had a copy of the life mask in the studio, and presumably that's what he painted it from. I don't actually think it's that great a picture, to be honest, but not picture painting, I should say. But it's all right. And there's a couple of others there that you might recognise from, you know, going to the Tate Gallery or to other galleries. Pretty good. Not his best stuff, but you know, he's getting there. Okay, so now on to room 3. So in room 3, there is a single artist called F.N. Souza. Now, this is not an artist that I know. I've come across him a couple of times before, but never really looked at his work much. But say the first time I went into this room, as I said, today I went there for the second time, and when I went there last week, I thought, yeah, these are great. These are really good paintings. I really like them. Today, I kind of thought that superficial is not the right word, but they're much more, they go more into the picture category rather than painting category, I think. Still good though, and especially his landscapes. One was called Citadel from 1961 and the other Red Sun from 1960. Those are really good. You know, the light is fantastic, the colours and just the whole kind of organic composition of the whole thing really work well, and you can see the paint in them, and I think they're really good, really nice to look at. You know, the kind of things I'd love to have them on my wall. I think they're really good. And there's a few religious paintings which, yeah, they're kind of all right, but didn't really do it to me. But there was a painting called Black Nude from 1961, and I thought that was a really good painting. And what else was there? Yeah, the Jesus paintings didn't really do it for me. And there's one painting that was black, basically painted, the whole thing painted with black paint. What was it called? Two Saints after El Greco. You know, painting in one colour. You know, the first time it was done, it wasn't a good joke. Oh, sorry. First time it was done, it wasn't a good joke, and 1001 other times it's been done after that, still not a good joke. It's a gimmick. It's a way to play with people. Oh, isn't it fantastic? Just painted it with one colour. No, not really. Not very good painting. Doesn't really do anything for me whatsoever. So that's F.N. Souza. I might well check him out a bit more because, you know, I think they're pretty good. But yeah, some are better than others. That's what I'm going to say. Worth looking at though. Okay, on to room 4. So room 4, what do we get in room 4? Well, it says in the booklet, and it said in the room as well, William Coldstream and Slade School of Fine Art and Analytical Gaze. Well, that kind of says it all. I've written, let me just, because I think I got to the nub of the matter when I wrote this down while I was there. It said, if you want to destroy any notion of the creative eye, then it seems you should have gone to the Slade. William Coldstream created dull paintings by renouncing any sense of interpretation. His paintings are tedious. They're just, oh, this is as close as I can get to what there is. Try and get it exactly right. You know, that's tedious. Who wants that? I want some interpretation. I want some life brought into it. I want to know what the artist thinks about stuff. I've gone on about this before. I'm not interested in just portraying something. And I don't want pretty pictures either. What I want is I want to know what the artist thinks. I don't want to be asked questions. I don't simply want to have an illustration of what's in front of you. I want to know what another human being actually thinks. That is what art's about. So when you get the likes of William Coldstream and Ewan Uglow, do you say that? Uglow? Uglow? Don't know how you say his name. Uglow. That sounds better, doesn't it? Ewan Uglow. You know, you just don't get that. What you get is dull, dull stuff. I wrote, these paintings are about as uninteresting as it gets. Naturalistic colours, whatever poses. The kind of analytical approach, look, this kind of analytical approach can be seen in Freud, because I think he went to Slade, was taught by William Coldstream for a while. But at least Freud made an effort. And I don't even really like Lucian Freud. It's much better than them. Ewan Uglow, more tedious dead painting. Well done, you can paint accurately what you see without imposing any character of your own. You must be very proud, and you are very forgettable. I do not like these paintings. I think they are dull, I think they are tedious. I don't think they bring anything to the world other than the fact that, oh, well done, you can paint a picture of what's in front of you. That's not enough. That's not art. I want more than that. Come on, grow some balls. Let's do something. Not them. Okay, that's the end of room 4. Not an impressive room. Can't stand that stuff. Let's move on to room 5. So in room 5, we have a bit of a treat, I suppose, in some ways. Not the best paintings, but you know, pretty good. We have David Bomberg, Frank Auerbach, and Leon Kossoff. Now, I've said earlier how I really like David Bomberg, and there are a couple of Bombergs in this room. Not his best, I wouldn't say, but still, you know, interesting paintings. Paint, use of paint. That's what we like. Early Frank Auerbach. Honestly, I think early Frank Auerbach, he just tries a little bit too hard, and he doesn't step back and think, actually, I can probably do this better, or in another way that actually gets to the point a lot quicker and gets more of my, you know, what I want to express in there, you know, in a better way. So not the best paintings, but still some really good ones. There's one little portrait, I can't remember who it's of, but really some really good. It's a really good painting, colourful, characterful, good stuff. Leon Kossoff, you know, I like Leon Kossoff up to a point. I find that he went so far and didn't go any further. Some of his paintings, they tend to look a bit messy. They tend to look like he's kind of reached his peak, and they haven't really changed ever since. And certainly the early ones, much like the earlier Frank Auerbach ones, were when I presume they knew each other, they were friends with each other. They went to, where was it? I can't even remember what art school they went to, but they went there together. So they were good friends. And they, you know, the paintings, they can be a bit dull in colour. You know, lots and lots of paint, but very monotonal, and just, you know, some of these, I mean, they used to paint like building sites and stuff, because after Second World War, so there are lots of building sites where, you know, previously there had been bomb sites. But some of these, they just look, I mean, they look like they're painted with mud, quite honestly. They're not the greatest works of art in the world, but they're interesting to see. They're interesting to see, but I'm not sure Leon Kossoff can do much better. He did do a self-portrait that's in that room, which is actually really nice. I really quite like that. The building sites, I don't think was that great. Just too muddy. Just, you know, you've got to be aware that other people are going to look at these things. You need to express yourself and communicate. You know, just expressing yourself for the sake of it isn't good enough. Like so many artists do that. It's just express, oh, it's just me. Yeah, let's just express. Let's just go mad and do things. Oh, that makes it art. No, it doesn't make it art. You've got to communicate. And if what you produce is something that is muddy and uninteresting to look at and difficult to interpret, then yeah, I don't really think you've done the job that well. But you know, he tried. And some of these early Frank Auerbachs, similarly not so good, but you know, still that's a good room. It's a good room. Nice to see Leon Kossoff, Frank Auerbach, and David Bomberg all together. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so now on to room. Where are we? On to room 6 now. Okay, and in room 6 we have more Auerbach and Kossoff. Later Auerbach, some really damn good paintings in this room. Really top quality art. Paint expressing what the artist is trying to get across. There's more than one colour in there, so you know, you get a sense of things going on. There's also some Kossoffs, and again, not so good. I think I might have got some of the paintings confused with the previous room. I think that self-portrait, that Kossoff self-portrait might be in this room, room 6. But the Auerbach, really good stuff. The Kossoff, well, yeah, as I said, some of them, you know, the thing with Kossoff, sometimes they just look a bit like unfinished, a bit messy, a bit stodgy. He lacks the vision that Auerbach had. Auerbach has got that vision, and he did it, and he did it well, and he's still doing it. So that's room 6. Small room, good room, love it. Auerbach, can't get better than that. Let's move on to room 7. So room 7, you have a whole room, a large room full of Lucian Freud paintings, and there are some people who absolutely love him and will love this room. I'm not that big a fan of Lucian Freud, but anyway, it's surprising how small some of these paintings are, certainly some of the older ones, the amount of detail that are in them. I mean, you cannot deny his ability at his craft and what he does. But you can still see some of that Coldstream thing, naturalistic colours, and trying to portray what is there in front of him. And quite frankly, Frank Auerbach and Francis Bacon are far more ambitious and far more imaginative, far more interesting, in my opinion. I find that when you get a whole room of Lucian Freud paintings, or indeed a whole exhibition, I remember going to see retrospective of his years ago now at Tate Britain. It was just the Tate Gallery then. It just became very dull. Everything just seems pretty much the same. Every painting seems to be the same painting, and they're very good, but there's I don't know, I just felt like there's more to life. He just seems to do the same thing again and again and again. His progression in terms of his style seems to be very slow, just slowly changing little bit by little bit. One of his paintings that's in the exhibition is an early one. I can't remember what it's called, but it's this portrait of a girl, and she's holding this cat, and the cat's head is there. And yeah, it's hilarious. That cat's head is hilarious. Really like that. But they're all just, yeah, it's all very finely tuned. Even the later ones, you know, like there's a Lee Bowery portrait of Lee Bowery, I should say. And you know, it's a very good painting. You know, I can't fault the quality. I just think that, you know, more could be done, and so for that reason, I just find him rather uninteresting in the end. I don't think people are wowed by him because it's kind of naturalistic painting, and he does it very well, and they think, wow, that's amazing. But you know, Francis Bacon and Frank Auerbach, for my money, they just have so much more to offer than Lucian Freud ever did. Still, it's a decent room. It's a lot better than some of the other rooms. So that's Lucian Freud in room 7. Let's move on to room 8. So room 8, Francis Bacon. You've just got Francis Bacon in this room, although there are some photographs by Paul Deacon, I think it is. Can't really see what the point of having those photographs there is. Their only interest really is the fact that they're of people that Francis Bacon painted, and there's a painting of, there's a photograph of Lucian Freud, and you know, whatever. I don't see the point of those photographs in this exhibition. But the paintings, now these paintings from the 1960s and 1970s, and they are still wow. So, you know, this is like, what, 50 years ago. These paintings are, you know, they are in your face. He's got a pair of balls and he waves them in your face. These are good paintings. They're expressive, they are powerful. In the 70s, sometimes I feel like he did get a little bit self-conscious about his style, like he stopped trying so hard to keep pushing and keep trying to find what he's trying to say. He's like almost like settled back a bit on his laurels, but you know, you don't see that. So you see that a little bit in a couple of these paintings, but not so bad. They're still really good paintings. They're still powerful, and he kept trying. And you know, that's great stuff. These are paintings well worth seeing. You know, you've got to go for Auerbach and go for Francis Bacon, and you won't be disappointed. These are good painters, great artists. The pair of them, really good stuff. So that's room 8. Good Francis Bacon paintings from the 1960s and 1970s. So where are we going? On to room 9. So we've got a few more rooms to go. 9, 10 and 11. Yeah, things I think in this exhibition go a little bit downhill in my opinion in the following few rooms, but we'll get onto that now. On to room 9. So room 9 we have Michael Andrews and R.B. Tate. Not a fan of either of these. Tate, I really don't know what the fuss is about him. He talks a lot. You know, so many of these artists that you've heard of, they're good at talking, they're good at the chat, and the words seem to be much more important than the work themselves. I don't think he painted very well. The paint seems to be a bit of a mess and just a means of getting an image on the canvas. And the images themselves, I think, are pretty messy as well. There's colour everywhere and stuff everywhere. It just looks a bit of a mess. I don't think they're very good. Yeah, I just don't really know what the fuss is about him. Michael Andrews, as far as I can tell, he's only known for, you know, one particular painting, which is in this exhibition, which is, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a father and son in the water, father teaching the son to swim, that kind of thing. You've probably seen the painting, you know, on the internet or books or whatever. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right if you like that kind of stuff. I want more from my art. So there isn't really an awful lot to say about these two. I don't think either of them are that great. But hey ho, such is life. We shall move on to room 10. So in room 10 we have Paula Rego. Surely Paula Rego. Paula Rego, really good if you like that kind of thing, which I have to say I'm not quite a fan of. I feel like her paintings, again, they don't, you know, paint is not the thing. They are very much illustrations, really, but they're very good. Her craft you cannot deny, a bit like Lucian Freud, really well produced works. But she's very heavy on the composition. It's very allegorical. If you like that kind of thing, that kind of storytelling, then fine, you'll like that. I always find her figures a little bit, they're all a bit heavy set. You know, the head's always a little bit too large, and it kind of expresses something, but doesn't really do it for me. If you like that kind of thing, then you'll love it. So, as I said, you know, there's especially this kind of triptych, and they're really, really well done. I just don't really like them aesthetically, and I don't think that the means of production, the medium, the paint, actually expresses anything. I think it's all a kind of grand illustration of it, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, because I do think she's very good at what she does. I just don't particularly like it. I don't think they're great paintings, but they're very good at what they are. And if you like that kind of thing, then you'll love these. Paula Rego, really not bad at all, if you like that kind of thing. Yeah, if you like that kind of thing. Okay, so now on to really what is the worst room. Room 11. Okay, so room 11, definitely the worst room, mainly because it has a Jenny Savile painting in it, and I cannot stand Jenny Savile. I mean, what is it with her? Is her ego not big enough that she has to paint massive paintings? And I'm talking, this painting that's there is like, I don't know, 10 feet wide, 8 feet high. It's huge. It's just over head, single head. I think it's her head, because I think she only paints herself. And this is what she's known for, these huge, massive, monumental paintings of herself. And I can't stand them. I can't stand the ego involved, and I can't stand the lack of painting in them. I mean, it kind of goes back to the William Coldstream thing. There's something very analytical about the images themselves, that the you know, they're done exactly right. So, you know, everything's in the right place. There's no expression in the figures themselves. But what's worse is the use of paint. It's like they thought, oh yeah, so we can do this analytical thing, but it's not quite as expressive as excuse me, as some of these other paintings. So maybe if we look at that, oh yeah, I've seen, you know, if you just like do a brush stroke like that, that makes it look expressive. It's like this arty style was developed, whereby, you know, you just get these bits of paint all over the place. It makes it look like you're being expressive, but actually you're not. You're not being expressive at all. They're completely unexpressive. They're awful. It's just an awful way to paint. It just makes a nonsense of the whole idea of painting. They look like painting, but they are completely superficial. They're awful. They're absolutely awful. I can't tell you how much I cannot bear her paintings. I think, you know, they're the worst advertisement for what painting can actually do. You go back and see the Francis Bacon's or the Frank Auerbachs, and they will knock your socks off. Jenny Savile, she, let's not go there anymore. Who else was in this room? There was Celia Paul, a couple of good paintings, which I thought were quite nice, and someone called, let me read it for the book, because I'm always saying this wrong, Lynette Yaudin-Balquier. Those paintings, again, it's got this kind of tedious art school, I want to be expressionist, but I can't, so I'm just doing like an arty style kind of thing. You know, I can't, you know, just don't. Just give up painting. If you can't express yourself, be an illustrator. Fine. You know, I've got no problem with illustrators. You know, we've all got something that we're good at. Just because you want to be a painter doesn't mean you are a painter. Maybe you are an illustrator. Maybe you're the best illustrator the world has ever known. It's great. You know, an artist isn't better, a painter isn't better, a baker isn't better. You know, just do what you're good at, and if you ain't good at painting, then don't do it, and save us all the trouble. There's also a nice little painting by Arnold Tupley, which is kind of reminds me in some ways of the Lucian Foyers in terms of they're just sitting there, just doing their thing, kind of looking a bit bored. But it's painted really nicely. The hands are interesting, and there's some abstraction going on, which actually makes the whole thing, you know, really quite interesting to look at. I think that's a very interesting little painting. But Jenny Savile, oh, do me a favour. That's the end of room 11, and that is the last room. So that's the end of this little review of the All Too Human exhibition at Tate Britain. It's a very good exhibition. I'll try not to rant too much about the price. I managed to get him free with a friend because he had an membership. He's got a membership at Tate, so he could take me in for free. Otherwise, I think it's probably about 20 quid or something, which I think is disgusting because it means only the wealthy middle classes can afford to go to this exhibition, when really I want poor people to go. I want poor people to be inspired. Poor people like me. I'm a poor person. I happen to be interested in art, so I managed to get in with a friend. But if I hadn't managed to get in with a friend, I wouldn't go. Cost too much money, far too much money. I've got bills to pay. You know, I've got to afford food and stuff, and rent and all of that kind of stuff. 20 quid to get in is far too much. Should be a fiver. Anyway, I've ranted about this before. I'm not going to rant about it again now. I think it's a good exhibition. It's got some really good paintings. Frank Auerbach, Francis Bacon, David Bomberg. Go to this exhibition just for those three, and try to avoid the Jenny Savile. I will do a little written review, excuse me, which I'll put on my blog as well. And I'm going to go with my friend to see the Picasso exhibition at Tate Modern as well, and I shall do another review of the Picasso exhibition, which I'm very much looking forward to. So hope you enjoyed this, and goodbye.